And I want to raise big questions with special guests. Bribery at customs across this country. Is this an open, worst kept secret? Is corruption affecting the ease of doing business even now in the country? Is a social media expose really a way to expose corruption? I want to join special guests. Subhash Chandra Garg is former Finance Secretary, Government of India. Sanjeev Ahluwalia is a former IAS officer and a distinguished fellow at the Chintan Research Foundation. Appreciate both of you joining us. Before I come to you, I want to put up what India Today's gross domestic behavior survey found earlier this year. 61%, I want you to understand these numbers carefully. 61% said sometimes it is necessary to pay a bribe to get your work done. 38% said not needed to get your work done through bribes. 94%, the highest was in Uttar Pradesh, said they were ready to give a bribe to get their work done. 82% in Tamil Nadu, where Mr. Ganeshan is from, said they are opposed to paying bribes. Subhash Chandra Garg, your first response. Here is a businessman who's gone public saying he had to pay bribes to get his goods imported and he's now threatening to close down his business.
So this is what has come out is a very common sort of business practice in India. I am sorry to say, but that's a fact. Mostly it remains under covers. It doesn't come out in the open because both sides, the government officials as well as the businessmen, understand that is the way to do business. That is considered as part of the cost to some extent. And then they go ahead, do their business. But whenever it becomes unreasonably or uncontrollable, so to say, that even the basic business itself is threatened or the existence of
Are
the
you saying it's part of a chalta hai? No, 1 minute, Mr. Garg. Mr. Garg, are you saying there is a chalta hai attitude? For all the talk of na khaunga, na khane dunga, which the Prime Minister says, on the ground, a customs official in Chennai believes bribes are part of his, in a way, of his job profile. He takes the money, according to at least Mr. Ganeshan.
See, that is the normal case. I wouldn't put it in this chalta hai kind of attitude, but this is the normal way to do business. But in this case, I've gone through a little bit into it. Actually, our policymakers at the highest levels, many times we think that it's operational problem down under where there is a problem. But the root, even in this case, if you look at it, are the kind of new requirements which have been imposed recently in last couple of years. There is a requirement for batteries import to get an EPR, extended producers sort of responsibility certificate from the authorities. There is environmental authorities. There is another requirement which the customs have cited, that you have to get from the meteorology department a certificate that what you are importing is in compliance with that. There is a BIS additional requirement. So this gives the handle in the hands of the customs official. If you want to sort of punish somebody that you have not given this certificate, they wouldn't ask, normally speaking. So in this case, these 3 certificates have been asked, which is impossible for anyone to produce. So it is the policymakers' problem which they create. They say it is ease of doing business, but in the process we keep on creating more and more hurdles. So it's a very sad situation. It's only
so in a way, this is a classic. In a way, this is a classic case, sir, of a bureaucratic maze. It's interesting. I have 2 bureaucrats. The businessman that I asked to come on the program didn't want to come. And that's part of the problem. The fear factor in speaking out. Sanjeev Ahluwalia, is there a bureaucratic maze that still exists where you have discretionary powers and maybe the customs still have far too many because of customs laws? That's where the corruption starts. The corruption is linked to the discretionary powers. Do you agree?
Rajdeep, bureaucracy is by definition a maze. So, you can't get away from that. The only difference is that in our case, the rules and regulations, and this is not new, this has always been there. the rules and regulations have three problems. One, they are extremely and unnecessarily complicated and intrusive, right? So that requires the compliance requirements that Saurabh just mentioned. The second is that more recently, the new rules that are being written very shabbily. They are not explicit, they are not clear, and they are not, they could have two or three meanings to them, which leaves open the chance for dispute and for reconciliation and later on for uh, appeal, against whatever decision is taken by the assessing officer. So I think this is a policy problem that needs to be solved almost entirely across the whole gambit of rules and regulations that we have. You might remember that there was a famous case earlier about people importing uh, built up cars as completely knocked down cars because the duty was less. And these are very reputed companies, including a German company. So these practices will always be there where the rules are porous and shabbily written. We have to write these rules properly and we have to write them simply. Now, there's a problem that most rules are written in English. English is not a language which is, known by very many people in India in terms of its intricacies. So maybe we should reconsider that the original copy of everything should be written in Hindi
No, but
and then
that, sir,
translated. So I
that
don't
with
know
due
how well that
regard,
will
that
go down in Tamil Nadu.
whichever language, sir, whichever language they are written in, laws need to be simplified and ensure minimal discretionary powers to officials. Now, that's the bureaucratic problem.
Yes.
The other issue, Subhash Chandra Garg, is in this instance, the
Yeah.
person was ready to pay the bribe. Instead of, he was readily paying the bribes instead of going to the higher ups and exposing these officials. And that reveals a lack of confidence, Mr. Garg, in the system.
See, for the businessman, the idea is to do business. For him, as I said earlier, paying some money is the cost of doing business. It's part of the cost structure which it takes into account. Businessmen don't have time to go to authorities and do it, fight to the system. As long as it is reasonable, they don't make an issue out of it. I don't think the expectation that this guy should have gone to, he went to the senior officers in Chennai. How long he's exposing by way of tweets. He did it a couple of times earlier also, which could have been noticed by the senior officials. Now, would you expect him to come to Delhi or to other senior officers to chase his case? He is to do his business or to do all this kind of things. So I don't think this expectation that he should fight the system, which he might be, he might not be the only one, and then sort of spend his time. You
No,
was
but
showing
listening, but listening to both of you, it almost seems as if even businessmen have accepted that bribing local level officials is part of doing business. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Garg? That businessmen have to accept it? It's part.
See, our business culture.
Yes, Mr. Ahluwalia wants to intervene. Mr.
Okay.
Ahluwalia wants to
No,
intervene. Let him intervene. Mr.
I-
Ahluwalia,
Rajdeep.
have businessmen
Yeah,
also
Rajdeep.
accepted that
Yeah,
giving these
Rajdeep.
bribes is part of my business model? Okay, the image of Mr. Ahluwalia has frozen. You want to take that? You want to take that question, Mr.
It
Garg,
is-
and end it there?
It is
What's your view? Yeah, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Ahluwalia, quickly.
Yeah, I'm saying that very quickly that, as I said, tali do haath se bajti hai. And, so therefore, I am making no allegations in this particular case. This has to be investigated, and Department of Revenue has taken up the thing. So I'm sure they'll do a good job and, give justice where it's due. But there are businessmen and there are businessmen. As I gave you the case, even a German company was undercutting tax by misdeclaring their imports. One reason is because our rules are not properly written. So they're open to multiple
Sir, I take it take the point. I take the point that rules are responsible. We have a maze of rules, but that still doesn't excuse the fact that there is a human angle as well, where bribery has got normalized. Let's start accepting it. Let's end this chalta hai attitude, and maybe more businessmen need to start speaking out more openly and freely. The fear factor must also end. Speak up rather than bribing officials. Mr. Garg and Mr. Ahluwalia, I appreciate you joining me on my talking point.